Good morning and a warm welcome to all our esteemed panelists and the attendees from across the globe. I welcome you all to the NetworX Webinar Series 2020 curated by Acetech. Also, I am delighted to know that we have over 1,500 registrations for today's webinar. Acetech, being the largest networking platform of the country, is honored to bring together the industry expert leaders through our webinar series, Acetech Network. It is a platform which has seen thoughts evoking from the top leaders in the architectural, design, construction, and manufacturing space. And this has been the very core at Acetech since its inception. The sustainable arguments for wood construction are many. Building in wood can save us a lot of carbon emission. Then why don't we use more wood? The biggest challenges are the lack of knowledge and the hands-on experience. Let's change that. We all are gathered here to share knowledge and overcome the challenges together in order to ultimately improve the potential and build more in wood. We believe that the best way to create a green and sustainable restart in the construction industry is to enhance the use of wood as a building material. I would like to thank our powered by sponsor Beautex Global for suggesting and supporting this topic today. We would now like to play a short video of Beautex, post which we would briefly introduce all our panelists for today.
Coffee break?
This is better for you. It's natural. Our teacher said that homes should be made of long-lasting, sustainable materials that won't harm our health or the planet. Is that why we're using Weathertex cladding?
Naturally. Aside from being a safer and healthier cladding, there are many other reasons that Weathertex should be your first choice. They are Australian owned and made with over 50 years in the business and voted #1 most trusted brand in the building industry. They're 100% natural, made from Australian hardwood with no added chemicals, glues, silica, resins and formaldehyde. Only standard carpentry tools are needed for cutting. They're extremely durable, lightweight and flexible, with panels that are up to 10 kilos lighter. They offer up to 25 years warranty against rotting, splitting and cracking. They're termite resistant. They offer a wide selection of weatherboards and architectural panels available in both natural and primed. Weathertex, a better choice, naturally.
Good morning and a warm welcome to the respected panel and viewers who have joined us today. We highly appreciate the support extended by sponsors Beautex Global and Weathertex. And I take this opportunity to thank each of the respected panel members for giving us the honor. I'm sure the expert leaders on the panel today need no introduction, but I would like to take the opportunity to do the needful. We have with us Mr. Jimmy Mistry, the moderator, CMD and Principal Designer, Della Group. Mr. Mistry, CMD Della Group, wears multiple hats as a designer, hotelier and entrepreneur. With 23 years of unmatched experience and expertise in design and theme-based architecture. Founder, designer and operator of India's finest luxury resort, Della Resort. Creator of experiential hospitality with India's only military-themed resort. Data, developer of luxury villas in the second home segment with Della Villas. We welcome you, sir. Architect Kanhai Gandhi, co-founder KNS Architects. Architect Kanhai Gandhi set up KNS Architects along with architect Shilpa and architect Srivastava. His portfolio ranges across master plan, commercial and residential architecture, hospitality, resort living, second homes, villas, and luxury home interiors. Kanhai believes change is the only constant in life and hence he does not adhere to any distinct style of design. We welcome you, Architect Kanhai Gandhi. Architect Hitesh Modi, founding partner, Modi Srivastava and Associates. Modi Srivastava and Associates is an architecture, interior designing and urban designing firm established by architect Hitesh Modi, architect Amit Srivastava and architect Neha Modi in 1994. Architect Hitesh Modi, founder, partner and principal designer of Modi Srivastava and Associates, was the chairman of IIID Vadodara and is currently in the national executive body of IIID as head IIID website development and digitalization. He is a senior member in the national executive team of IIID since 2014 and had held the same portfolio in 2017 to 2019. We welcome you, Architect Hitesh Modi. We have with us Mr. Sumessh Menon, founder and design director, Sumessh Menon Associates. Sumessh Menon Associates, a Mumbai-based interior design firm, creates bespoke, modern and chic design concepts. Touted as one of India's top 10 hospitality designers and listed in India's Hot 100 list of designers, Sumessh Menon has carved a niche for his innovative and flamboyant design creations that blend style and luxury with comfort and harmonized interior spaces. We welcome you, Mr. Menon. Shilpa Jain Balvally, Partner Principal Architect, Studio Osmosis. Founded in 2010, Studio Osmosis is a multidisciplinary design practice formed by Samir Balvally and Shilpa Jain Balvally. Studio Osmosis has been working on a varied project, architecture and interior projects ranging from hospitality, commercial, residential, retail and healthcare sectors across India, including international clientele. Studio Osmosis has been felicitated as one of the Hot 100 practices in India in 2017. We welcome you, Architect Shilpa. We have with us Mr. Paul Michael, Executive Chairman, Weathertex. Paul Michael, being on the board of 5 timber associations, had bought the business 20 years ago, successfully navigating it through the meshing of old and new technology while playing an important role in improving the sustainability of Australian building products and practices. Australian owned and manufactured with a better than zero carbon footprint, Weathertex's external timber cladding is the ideal solution for any builder, architect or designer in search for environmentally conscious and high quality material. All Weathertex products are made in Australia from PEFC certified forest or private hardwoods without any chemical additives. Weathertex. We welcome you, Mr. Paul. Mr. Ranjit Dhody, Managing Director, Beautex Global, carrying forward the legacy of its founder, late Sarwan Singh Dhody, the two promoters of the family-owned and family-run Beautex Group, Mr. Prabjot Dhody and Mr. Ranjit S.S. Dhody, have spearheaded the success story for over 2 decades. Celebrating over 5 decades in business, Beautex has been beautifying lives through its wide range of exclusive products today, engaged in manufacturing, importing and supplying of quality products serving the building and interiors industry. A new range of products day to day from different regions, which includes flooring, facades and fenestration. Operating on a pan-Asia level through a well-balanced network of associates and multi-location inventory program to serve time-pressing projects across the world. We welcome you, Mr. Ranjit. Without further delay, I would like to hand over the mic to Mr. Jimmy Mistry to begin the panel discussion. Sir and the esteemed panelists, the mic is all yours. We look forward to the session.
A very good morning and welcome all of you present there. There are about 512 participants right now. It's a great morning. And we have a legendary gentleman with us, Mr. Paul Michael, someone who's cast in wood. His career in life has been in wood. He chairs Weathertex and heads 5 different wood and timber associations in Australia. Paul, we would love to hear from you your journey with wood, where it started and how has it got you so deeply involved with a product that's completely having a negative carbon footprint. And I think somebody like you needs to be acknowledged because there are very few people in the world who run businesses which go into negative carbon footprint rather than increasing the carbon footprint of the world. And nothing more than the current scenario of COVID has made us all realize how important it is. So far, we were, I think, not even a fraction of the earth were champions of carbon footprint.
Again out, huh?
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So far, only a fraction of the people in the world are champions of now trying to get the carbon footprint reduced. Now the numbers are going to swell up much more. Past 3 months have really taught a lesson to, I think, everybody across in the world that you cannot mess around with nature. And so just help us take us through the journey of Weathertex and your personal interaction with the wood world.
I worked for 20 years for large multinationals in Australia and decided that I was making them too much money, so I decided to go and make myself some money. So my ex-business partner and I ended up buying Weathertex. And to be honest, not really knowing what we were doing or what we were getting ourselves into, we just saw it as a timber business that manufactured cladding. It was only in about 2005 when the Australian government started to introduce a carbon tax that we had to calculate how much carbon we emit into the environment. And to be fair, we have 2 coal-fired boilers and a gas-fired boiler and burn a huge amount of electricity a year. So we had to work out what our emissions were to see if we breached the threshold, the carbon emissions threshold, which we didn't. And then a week or so after we were audited by the government, we sat down and we thought, well, we know how much carbon we emit. We know how much bucked how many cubic meters of product we produced in that period of the audit, and because timber is half its weight in carbon, sequestered carbon, we're able to put the two numbers together. And we worked out that for every cubic meter of Weathertex that we produced, we actually had sequestered about 30 kgs of carbon. Now, that's not very much, but it's still a better than zero carbon footprint. And we've been saying this since 2005. And, we've been questioned a few times, but every time we've gone back to the people who question us, we're been able to prove that we do in fact have a better than zero carbon footprint. And since 2005, it's just growing. You see the benefits of timber, and they're many and varied. And I think now we're seeing people realise that having a timber building, whether it's CLT or glulam or whatever, and working inside a timber building, the positive psychological effects of working in a timber building are extraordinary. So I think that, yeah, I came into it by accident, but like everything else that I do, when I saw the benefits, I thought, well, wow, we're moving into a low carbon economy. That was very, very, very obvious. And so I just picked it up and run with the ball.
Wow. Journey for sure. And quite inspiring for our Indian design and architecture and construction industry scenario. It's never too late for people to wake up from their deep slumber and realize they owe it to this Mother Earth to leave it in a better shape than where we found it. So Ranjit, going to you, how did me and Beautex go? I think about 15 years or more. How did this entire journey of getting from parquet floors to Weathertex to glazings? What has been the journey so far?
Good morning to all, and thank you once again. I mean, I'm really fortunate that we could pull such an elite panel and such a powerful panel right now this morning. And I would leave the talking to all the experts, but I would just like to answer your question and add in a little bit to it. You've known us for all these years, Jimmy, and you've seen the transformation, what the world needs, we provide. We've transformed, we've expanded, we've diversified from different business verticals, of course. Today, wood being a very important part of our company, as you see Beautex Wood, an independent vertical. I'll just share the thought behind it. Currently, every city on planet Earth is typically being built exactly the same way: steel, mortar, concrete, brick, and maybe something else. What we thought that shifting the imagination of how we build or how we construct was, I think, need of the hour. It is very interesting, number one. Number two, even we as humans have got a very strong affinity towards wood, and the more we play with it, more we discover. And keeping that thought, I think using these low quality softwoods and hardwoods, which would not be used otherwise on planet Earth, would just be probably rubbish or just turn into a dead forest after a few years. We are actually doing a good thing by putting them to use. We're building things out of it. Paul rightly said, carbon sequestration. The carbon is just there. It's stored up into the belly of the tree. We're putting it into use. We're making products out of it. We're storing it up, and no, it does not leak after a couple of years. Looking at the trees, looking at the, whole, how do I say, the ideology that don't cut trees, don't cut trees. I mean, even to the younger ones, I always say that please correct the person, don't cut the wrong trees. And that is what I try to say. And I always encourage building with wood. That is what the future is, for various different reasons. I'm going to really leave it to all the experts here on the panel, Jimmy, and thanks once again.
Thank you, Ranjit. This goes out to all the design folks on the panel. Our Indian construction industry scenario is definitely dominated by concrete, and second in line is bricks, which are standalone structures, and then steel. We still haven't woken up to the usage of wood even where we can. For example, standalone structures, I could have easily done them in wood. We've been dabbling with alternate construction technologies, but Indian mindset of Sasta Sundar Tikau. Tikau is a very, very important thing across, and I think it's in our DNA. However, when you begin to realize the disadvantages of using alternate methods of construction besides wood, so concrete has 385 kgs of carbon dioxide per meter cube. steel has 1,200 kgs of carbon dioxide per meter cube, and bricks have 375 kgs carbon dioxide per meter cube. Wood, on the contrary, has a negative footprint of minus 900 per meter cube. This has stuck into my head. And believe me, all these years I've been dabbling and playing with wood, but never really consciously realized that, dude, there is something positive you can bring about by actually seriously thinking of this method of construction, at least for low rises and standalone structures. So this goes out to all the designers on the floor. What do you guys think? Do you think that Indian design industry, architecture industry and construction industry is in a mindset to accept wooden houses, or just continue to use them for fascias and claddings and stuff like that? I would love to start the question with Kanhai. Kanhai, what do you think?
Yeah, to start with, I would thank Acetech, Jimmy, yourself, and Sumit for having me here on this webinar. Okay, I'll just detract a bit. I think what happens, like, as an architect or as a designer, I think, we all are very creative. And when we are actually creating something, we need materials to express our creativity. So the creativity goes in hand with, your the expression of the same with different type of materials. It could be wood, it could be steel, glass, concrete. So what happens that it's more governed with the type of the concept that is, and the concept then drives the material. So, and coming to your question, actually, wood obviously is a very predominant thing in the current scenario of, as we know, what's happening in the world with COVID, and that we have actually, in a way, plagued the world with our presence right now. So it's time to go back. I think what I would say, like, in the Indian industry, is like there is the awareness is not there. I think if there is sort of an awareness which can be created amongst all the architectural studios apart and the interior design studios, and get it very strongly even in colleges, that there is the need of going back to the wood, because wood, as we see all across the globe, like, we have buildings now which are made in, like, there's a building coming up in Japan which is, it's called W350. It is 350 meters tall, and it's actually going to be constructed in wood. So if we get a hand of such technology, then actually that will really help. The other thing with wood is that if we look at it, it can be prefabricated. So actually, if that is also taught to a lot of people, like to the entire design industry, that you can actually build very fast, because you can do the entire prefabrication in factory, and that really helps in actually doing both. It is fast construction at the same time, even it helps in lowering your cost of construction. So this is where I think wood is very important. Secondly, obviously, we all know it is less polluting. And there's one more good aspect about the material which is there to bring to your knowledge, that wood is actually biophilic in design. When I'm saying biophilic, is that means there is a inherent DNA in every human body, that we actually connect to all natural environments. Now, wood being a like coming from tree, you automatically have a connect with that, and it plays with your psyche. So that's the reason why wood has become so popular as a cladding material as well as flooring. But the awareness needs to be there for people to actually accept it in the Indian construction industry. Once that comes in, I think that will really help. To our fortune, actually, we currently got a project in North America, actually, where we are constructing an entire house out of wood, and we're using the softwood, the pine wood, and actually, once it's ready, I'll be glad to share it with all my co-designers out there.
It'd be lovely, and it's good to hear that somebody is working with wooden structures in totality, and especially with the Indian context. So Sumessh is again one more person. I greatly admire his sense of design and style. We go back about 20 years, Sumessh. I think our first transaction...
More than that.
So 2000 or 99, somewhere around there. I was just last night recalling, I said, this guy must tell it to everybody, that in this industry, relationships are cemented and they last time like wood does. So Sumessh, tell me, well, what do you think when this transition in India is going to impact to the design world of using wood as a structural material for construction?
So as Kanhai rightly said, it's a lack of knowledge here. So, you know, when you talk of an entire home being made in wood, then there's a big question mark, you know, like that little scare comes. We're keeping budgets aside, it's just technology. So to convince a client and tell him that I'll give you an all 100% wood home is somebody that you need a lot of guts and convincing to do that. Though I'm a big fan of wood, and wood gets so much warmth into interiors. So whether it's homes, outdoor, facade, furniture, wood has to be there. I can't imagine of doing something without wood. Yeah. So but then people come and tell you, you know, there's so much of warping, there's so much of this. Like I'm a big fan even of making my own wooden windows. Yeah. Okay, we've done that. We've done wooden floorings with tongue and groove ourselves. You know, we've carved things out, and yeah, we've been using Weathertex also for the last 8-9 years. But we don't use it as standard facade. I'll make things out of it. We make bar counters, furniture. So wood is something that nobody can tell you no, but I think we all need to educate people what, like how Ranjit was talking about, how and what this new wood is all about, how he's getting these logs and how we make things out of it. So this is something that now we need to educate people, yeah, to tell them how safe is it, and what you, apart from just warping, there's so many other things that doesn't happen. Yeah. It's about treating it. That's it.
That's great. We have our lady architect, Shilpa. Shilpa, what's up with the phenomenon of studio osmosis? Can you tell us? I was quite intrigued when I saw it. Shilpa can't hear you. You need to unmute.
Hi. Sorry about that. Hi everyone, and it's lovely being here in the midst of this, amazing panel, and I'm glad to be here. So actually, I'll just go back a little bit where Osmosis actually came up when we were, both Samir and me were partners, and when we were in the US, we were studying and working there for about 7-8 years. And that's where actually we've learned so much about the wooden construction, you know, more than India. And, we wanted to sort of take up this entire concept of collaboration, working, with teams, which is what we sort of learned there. And we decided to come back to India and have our own practice and take it to that level where we are working with teams collaboratively, having these, one-on-one discussions with your client, involving them in the entire process, and then coming up with a solution. And Osmosis is kind of almost, gradual learning constantly. And I think we're doing that every day. I mean, every day we're learning about new technologies, new materials, and, how we should apply them. So here we are.
Shilpa, it sounds like music to my ears, because I've been shouting my throat hoarse in the Indian design interior industry scenario. Designers do not collaborate. And I think you guys will agree that interior per se, architecture, yes, slowly they'll begin to accept it. Interiors, people just don't collaborate and work together. All of us come with core competencies from one point or the other. And if you collaborate and work, I've seen the finest design studios globally working with their core competencies, and even competing studios coming together and working on projects. I think the value add needs to move, and I want to really champion that cause within the Indian context. However, you guys recently worked on an animal shelter project in Pune, and there has been some amount of wood used which is recycled and literally bought in from scrap. Tell us all about it. It's a very interesting project. I'm a complete hardcore animal lover, and I really appreciate the contribution that designers and architects like you do towards society on building up a shelter like that.
Yes, it's a really it's a project close to our heart. It's called Rescue, and it's in Pune, and it's basically an NGO that saves thousands and thousands of animals on a daily basis, and they've been doing a great job with an entire set of just volunteers. And we were humbled and proud to be one such volunteer to just help them build like a halfway home within their campus, which would help them sort of, in their research, bring in the volunteer base. And what we did is that obviously, there was no budget here. We decided to use their philosophy of, coming together from scratch and building this space. So we use all the concepts that you can of, climatic conditions, the right solar directions, the correct ventilations, and also the material that was used was all sort of locally sourced. The wooden doors were actually doors that were, procured from ready old doors, and then the entire design was planned along that thing. So, elements were acquired from different places. Some were donated actually by people. The furniture is pretty much a combination of, donation, recycle, upcycle. So the entire project has been built that way. In fact, even the contractors have been wonderful in coming up with, interesting techniques to sort of help build that entire project. And so it's been a very interesting one. And that's where I think the collaboration aspect also comes in, and how we can sort of take materials which are available locally to the best of the use,
Guys, sorry, I lost my network there. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I lost my network there. I was trying to connect on a parallel connection. So that comes to Hitesh. Hitesh, I have gone through your body of works, pretty interesting. And I would love to hear about the CEPT University project that you were recently involved in, and the structural elements over there using wood specifically. Just elaborate on the project.
Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Hi everybody. It's in fact as we discussed, the wood as a structural member never been we have never been learned that the wood can be used as a structural member. In fact, in the history, if we see, luckily in Baroda we have multiple these Gayakwadi buildings which were being made in jacquard slabs. That is, the wooden beams are being used 100 years back, and all arches in brick, and then the wood was being used as a structural member, and they still exist. And we got opportunity to work with such buildings, and that evoked the thought that why not even few projects in Jodhpur, Rajasthan, where these wooden beams and the stone slabs were being used. So ultimately, the wood is a structural member, and it lasts more than the projects we handled were 100, 120 years old. So I believe that, and that has evoked the thought process that why not to use it in a projects where it is not just a superficial cladding or the facade, but the structural member. And in fact, to bring that awareness, I believe the education institutes of the colleges, where normally the construction material taught is the brick, concrete, and the steel. This has not been taught in detail. Even in practicing firms, I believe, through some institutes like IIA, IIID, we have CEP programs. I believe such examples where wood has been used in recent projects should be, I think, taught. In fact, Mr. Gurdev Singh was designing this set workshop, and I was part of the team, and the entire structural member, the recent workshop was been made with a truss, where the truss is not steel, but it is a wood, which is being used as a, interestingly, the basic structural member is wood, but there frankly, the structural engineers were not competent enough to guide us that what sort of wood or what sort of sizes we should be using and how to build it. The company helped us, the hardwood company. I feel that it's a time when the wood manufacturing company collaborate with the structural consultants and the consortium of the structural consultants, architects, and the company together can find out the solutions, where it initially definitely was very complicated, but things are really interesting. And the longevity, what we have already seen, that these beams or the structural wood which has been used in past has sustained for more than 100 years. So it's a very interesting example and a case study. And we should all, I think, try to build a consortium where the consultant, the structural, when we as an architect want to use wood as a structural member, need a team of companies who manufacture the seasoning. There are the engineering required, which is, I believe, is not prevailing or not in the country. That collaboration can really help. So I think yes, there's a huge scope, and all major architectural firms who work with a permanent material or a timeless material would love to use it. But this kind of consortium or a collaboration needs to be evolved. That's what my take on it.
Sure. Hitesh, taking off from where the last point that you touched, I think the history of wood rubbing off in the Indian design and construction industry context is throughout 1800s, throughout 1900s, wood was always used, and we had the finest of Burma teak and Central Provinces teak, and these were far more prevalent than anything else. It continued, the process continued for every piece of furniture in our houses used to be made only with wood. So there was a certain legacy that we arrived with in the world of design with wood. But then we came to the 80s, and the quality of timber started deteriorating because of massive deforestation that happened in the Indian context of things. So Paul, this goes out to you. In India, I think the mentality of our design community, and specifically with the world of interiors and architecture, has been a problem with the processing of wood. It has never been with the quality of the wood, the timber that India has been producing, but the processing of the wood. The cleans didn't exist for clean drying of the wood, and the rest of the processing of wood was never advanced across and being made in India. At some point in time, we literally gave up on utilizing wood for structural members, specifically for the reason of warpages, and hence the quality of the structure that we constructed would deteriorate rapidly, and we moved to steel. Could you just educate our overall design community with regards to processing of timber, and how does it impact the life of timber?
In Australia, only 6% of our native forests are harvested, which means that every year only about 0.2 or 0.3% of that 6% is harvested, because there's a 20 year, 25, 30 year cycle. So the quality of our timber doesn't deteriorate, hasn't deteriorated over the years. Getting to your question about does the processing of it deteriorate it? Well, quite the contrary. Our process is we take pulpwood, which is a ubiquitous supply of it, because the saw logs that are harvested out of the forest, the higher quality, are in short supply, but pulpwood, which can't be used for any without being chipped. There is a ubiquitous supply of that. We then take the pulpwood, we chip it, we pulp it, take all the sugar and starch out of it, which water likes. We put 3% wax in it, which water doesn't like, and then we put it back together again in a process which is very much like making paper. And by doing that, we give a 25-year warranty, but we've got samples of Weathertex on the side of buildings in the factory that were put there in the 60s and the 70s, and they're still fine, absolutely fine. So long as the Weathertex goes through normal weather cycles, it can rain and rain and rain, and then it can be sunny. So long as it goes through those weather cycles, it will last for I won't say ever, but it'll last for 30, 40, 50 years. So whereas softwood can have the problems that you're talking about, Hitesh, that the softwood will degrade. Unprocessed softwood will degrade after 10 or 15 years, just by natural weathering.
Yeah. So Ranjit, the future of Weathertex depends upon how well you are able to penetrate this idea and segment across. You really think that kickstarting standalone ground plus 1, ground plus 2, ground plus 3 structures would start happening in Delhi and outskirts of Mumbai and all the vacation townhomes? I think somebody needs to kickstart the project and acceptability. I have a couple of projects and a case in mind which have backfired very, very badly. The Ambi Valley chalets backfired very, very badly.
I was just going to tell you the Ambi Valley chalets, yeah.
Backfired very, very badly. And there was another project which was in Karla near Lonavala that has backfired very badly, and it's not been completed. It was done with GI sections and fiber cement boards, of course not wood. But you know, the whole acceptability, and it is in the interest of the country that acceptability of processed wood coming in from sustainable forests gets into the main frame of construction. It's really something which is in the positive direction. It's just not about furthering the cause of your business, but purely from an environmental standpoint, I think the design community needs to push its weight behind. So how would you land up educating architects and designers on the usage of this and convincing clients, or fund a project and do it on your own and the rest will follow? See, in India, it's a herd mentality. You know,
it is a herd mentality.
Come one, come all. And it's the first thing that is the most painful and the most troublesome. So how would you go about doing it?
Jimmy, I'm glad you asked me that question because, you know, while all the panelists were putting their points across, I couldn't help agree with them more. Picking on your immediate question that why do we look at projects actually going ahead and using, and what about the bad examples which we already have in front of us? The actual catch over here is that all those projects picked up wood from some part of the world without understanding probably how they should be applied, and then they used it in that particular thing. But when we got this opportunity, we used, just like Weathertex, which we've been doing for 10 years now, and not just in India, but also the other parts like in the Middle East. We've been doing projects down south, like even going to Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh. It survived because it wasn't just cutting a tree down and putting it up over there. It was more than that. It was reconstituting it, re-engineering it, and then putting it to use. Something very typically, probably later in this webinar, we might just get a chance to see a slide of one of our colleagues over here, Kanhai, wherein we took that challenge, one of a kind project, where we built an entire mural facade of about 250 square meters, entirely out of 60 feet long timber beams. Those beams now 3 years down, installed on the banks of River Ganga, haven't moved. They haven't cracked, they haven't slipped. Now, when we come back to Lonavala, let's say your next project, we need to be treated, sorry to be so direct, but we need to be treated more than just vendors. We do not want to pick up a bag, go to another country, pick up a product which we see in an exhibition and come down here. No, if we do not have a knowledge, we should not propose the product to you. We want to sit across the table with the architects, take their technical knowledge, propose our points of consideration, and then see that, okay, for this project, is this something that can be used? Paul, like he really explained about the deconstruction of the wood, that was with regards to Weathertex. But even everything else that particularly Beautex is doing, we do not really bring in, unless and until what we bring from Amazon, you know, from South America, that's a little portion. Everything else that we're bringing is re-engineered, is reconstituted, is worked upon by engineers and architects behind factories, behind machines. So none of this is just like cutting a tree and bringing it down. I would love to have an opportunity to even have a one-on-one with any architect, designer who may not, you know, principally agree that, okay, this is wood and we just need to use it. And I would like to contest my opinions and my little knowledge, which I have out of the study tours, which I've taken all over the world, and try making that possible.
I think Ranjit has got it right. I think it's a matter of, and what I was hearing from Hitesh and from Gunnar, that you need to use the right product in the right place. Using treated pine for a frame or glue lamb for a frame, you can, and I'm not sure you can get it in India at the moment, but CLT, cross-laminated timber, as an internal product. But then, in order to make the structure structurally sound and protected from the weather, then use a hardwood cladding like Weathertex, which protects the softwood from the weather. So if you get the hardwood on the outside, the softwood on the inside, and have it properly designed by a structural engineer, then it will work. And we've found, and sort of going off script a little bit here, we've found that in the last 10 or 15 years in the Pacific Islands, there's been a huge increase in the number of timber houses. It's in a cyclone area, And so historically, the houses have been made of concrete blocks, concrete bricks, because so that the cyclone wouldn't knock them over. But we've got clever engineers now. They will build a lightweight frame out of pine. They've got cyclone rods and proper connectors. Clad it with a lightweight cladding like Weathertex, and it will stand up to a cyclone. And the benefit of that is, and this is where it's relevant to the Indian climate, is that a concrete block, a timber frame has a very low thermal inertia, or its ability to hold heat. So that if you're living in if you're living in a concrete block house, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it could be 40 degrees outside. At 2 o'clock in the morning, it'll be 40 degrees inside as well. Whereas with the timber framed house, which has got a very low thermal inertia, very low ability to withhold heat, it'll be 40 degrees in the afternoon, but at 2 o'clock in the morning, it'll be whatever the temperature is outside, which might be 30 degrees. So people, once they realise this, far prefer to live in a timber frame, timber clad house. And the only thing that enabled that was the technology, the engineering that went into the lightweight timber framed house. So I think that's the temperature profile in the Pacific Islands is probably very similar to the temperature profile there. So not only do you get a environmentally friendly, a biophilic environment, you get something that's nice to live in, because you're not super hot in at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I agree with you, Paul. Not only the thermal insulation properties of timber are far superior, and they come naturally with the product inherited, but also the dead weight of timber is much, much lower, and hence the overall foundation design reduces.
Absolutely.
The weight of the building is 1/5 the weight of concrete. So there are advantages and advantages. The more you dwell into it as architects and designers and engineers, there are advantages and advantages. Ranjit, I also agree with you with what you said, that architects and designers need to stop treating vendors as vendors and start treating them as partners and collaborate. So that's one more area. I think the mindset of collaborating together is like I said, the core competency. So we do not have all the core competencies. We might be good into A, B, C, but then there are n number of people. They may be a vendor, they may be a consultant, they may be an engineer, they may be a specialist who's coming on board, or they may be the client. Because people come with core competencies, and core competencies are not just with the education, but they come in with experience and expertise. So I think the design community, I wish I could just take the design community over for 3 days and brainwash them on design thinking, empathy, and brainwash them on collaborating, because that would be a game changer completely for our country. Yeah. So next thing, coming to Kanhai. Kanhai, I believe you worked on this ePad project of yours that we were discussing yesterday, and you were quite excited to share it and showcase the idea on how you used Weathertex across extensively. And I believe in today's day and age of depressed times, it's a pad that's been created for entertainment and recreation. So something positive to look forward to. Sumessh, I don't know when Kanhai is going to invite you and me there, but I'm sure he can explain the project to us.
So I'll do that very, very soon, if you all feel it's safe for you guys to come in. Now what I'm touching on to is a short presentation which actually shows the more fun part of the use of wood, where it's more aesthetically pleasing. Gaurav, could you put that slide on, please? So this is a house that we've done in one of the high-rise buildings in the northern part of the city. It's around 4,500 square feet. And what we've done is it's a very a textured place where the entire floor and the entire ceiling is done in engineered wood, and all walls have been done in a special treatment of a sort of unplastered look. It's a plaster with pigeon mesh. And if you can go next. So that's how it is. It's like the entire space unfolds as you walk into the space. It's the wood with unravel as you move in. And the wood actually with the angles gives you direction to flow into the entire house. And then we have these, the color red has been intentionally used because it's to do with entertainment, and it has to be very intimidating, at the same time create intimacy also. So this shows, the wood can be used in a very different fashion. At the same time, that's a different look and feel of the house. Go next. Yeah. This is something again which is done entirely in wood. It's the retreat which we've done in the northern part of the country, is the Rishikesh, where we've actually used a lot of Weathertex cladding. If you go next. And we designed an entire mural. This was the 3D render, which just shows how the mural was inspired from the wave. And the entire color combination was taken with respect to the nature out there, with the white color petals and how the entire landscape is. Go next. This is how it actually is erected on site, and it's been now 2-3 years, and it's standing very well. And it's basically a wellness center. So that's the reason why we actually proposed wood. And we were looking at a good solution because everyone had that fear factor that the wood catches fire and would decay. So but we saw the advantages, like which can actually overcome this fear factor, and that's the reason we went ahead and used this material. And after it's done, it actually gives you that wellness and the resort look that we are looking at, and the warmth which is very strongly required. Can you go next, please? This is something which was very close, where actually shows you the two different types or uses of wood. Actually, there is Weathertex, which is in the very modern contemporary cladding, which you can see the dark brown, which is used on the facade. At the same time, we've actually used authentic Burma teak, which has been used and carved. This is almost a 23 feet high tall door, which was carved in Udaipur, and then we got it from there. And actually just show the nice in confluence of the two, the old and the new coming together. So I'm just saying that there's so many things that we can actually do with wood, and that really, it's up to the architect and the designer how we can actually experiment with it and take it to the next level.
And I love the juxtapose that you created between the old and the new world with Weathertex and Burma teak together. Huh? It's quite commendable. The whole thing looks lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Mohit, thank you, Ravi.
Okay. So
me, I think as like from what Paul was talking and from what even Kanhai has shown, I think there's a whole aspect of wood, the usage of wood in India for the different climatic regions. And I think that's something that, we need to explore as designers, as architects, and also as companies that are coming into India, whether it's local or international. Because if you look at the hilly regions, if you look at the entire northeastern states, if you look at Himachal and that entire mountainous belt, really, I mean, people are making their own homes, or they are renovating old timber structures that have been there for last 200, 300 years. And they're actually able to live in those today, and keep them earthquake friendly, because that's a very important aspect in those regions where you cannot stay in brick or concrete homes and then sort of be able to move easily when something happens to those homes. So I think that mobility of being able to sort of even renovate or change or see what happens when these kind of, disasters come into play has been taken to another level when it comes to these regions. Or even for that matter, if we talk about the southern part of India, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, where even today they are developing the timber structures, but they're almost doing it like a DIY, which is done in the US, or other places in Europe. So I think there's a lot of learning that we need to do from that entire aspect, that we combine that entire DIY aspect, the local conditions, and then go into those spaces as designers and help them make aware and then bring those learnings back.
Shilpa, I would agree with you. I've personally experienced the disasters that the last week cyclone has created on our property. One of our 6 resorts is half finished. The tents have completely given way, and it's a flurry of nature that we couldn't do anything about. I agree with you. Sumessh, you've been doing, you become the king of hospitality, dude. You've been doing projects after projects more than most design firms would in hospitality, and I'm so happy for you for that. So tell us, take us through this journey of how would you want to use wood and how very distinctly, creatively you've used wood. Like you're coming up with your new office and you're discussing with me that you're already planning to do something with wood on the balcony. So tell us, how does your mind tick with wood?
So lately I've been studying all about glue lamp, and half these guys don't even understand what glue lamp is. I didn't for a while, and it took me some time to understand. And it's actually, you can play it like clay. And for a lot of years, just some time back, I've stopped and I've started using terrazzo and wood. But otherwise, it is only logs of wood. So the Coco restaurant we did, it has over 100 running feet, all out of planks of wood. And then we scoop things out and pour little resin, make some designs in it. And obviously, we're doing a lot of wooden floorings. We clad murals. We collaborate with artists, and I'll make sure that there is all kinds of elements used in it. So I strongly believe in collaboration. And where expertise don't lie, we don't even try getting into it. So like we won't dabble into landscape, hardscape. We want to get somebody from our fields. And same with lighting. Very few of us actually go out and get a lighting architect into the project. And I keep telling clients, like, we have to collaborate. This is a very big project, and a collaboration will really help. So same way with wood, I've got real good wooden karigars from all across the skill sets, from Rajasthan, from South, from different places, who only can do some kind of wooden magic which we guys can't even think of. So from furniture to tabletops to your facades, we've been using wood extensively. And now, of course, with glue lamp technology that's come in, and all these new cabanas that we're also working, we don't buy anything ready. We try and make them ourselves. Like the one that now I'm talking to you about in the office is still engineering. We're still going to people to ask what's the best way to work and make sure there's no warping, and then it has to be rain-proof, all that. Yeah. So I believe in collaboration, and this is something that I will never dabble into it myself. Yeah.
Lovely. I think we've got about 5 more minutes to go. Why don't we take some questions across? So if our moderator, yeah, Gaurav, could you help us?
Sure. I'm going to take. There's a lot that's come here, but I will start with this particular question. Okay, so it's some traditional homes in South India are made entirely out of wood, including beams and columns. So this is actually talking about it being used for build.
That's exactly what Shilpa spoke here.
Yeah, traditionally, the method of construction in India has always been, the structure was always in wood, and we had either bricks or block masonry across, or local clay mud pots across as walls. So that has been the method of construction right from the colonial days, and it still continues in most rural parts of India even now.
We've got a question from Kshitij, which is: last week, Australia's tallest timber building was unveiled in Brisbane. It stands 10 floors high, all timber structure.
Lovely. Paul, would you like to take that?
That was made from CLT, and there's several buildings in Australia made from CLT. One in Sydney and one in Melbourne. There's a time-lapse photography of the one in Melbourne with a traditionally constructed building next door, and the CLT building, which was 20 floors high, the Fort building in Victoria. It took months and months and months less time to build than the concrete constructed building. So I think not only is the carbon footprint a lot better, but the time to construct it, the number of people needed to construct it is a lot less, and as you said, the biophilic benefit, the positive psychological effects that you have from living in a timber building are extraordinary.
We have a query here which is stating if somebody can help us with a little more light on architect Shigeru Ban's method of construction using paper tubes, which he's well known for.
I would like to add to the earlier answer actually. The two questions, one for South India to Shilpa and one to Paul. If you see the common aspect between these is that now, building is being looked at as assembling. Wood is making it possible to treat it like Lego. You think of it and you can make it. Most of the stuff, when you break down an old home, I mean, I could speak for something even around in Maharashtra, one of those old Maharashtrian homes, you will see that all the wood is still usable when you break it down. Very less component of it would probably go to scrap or waste. Everything is usable, or rather I would say could be sold for the weight of gold, some of the wood. Everything was engineered even at that time. It's like the new Lego, which we're discovering with these CLT, as Paul mentioned, means cross-laminated timber. That's what he meant. And yeah, that's what we're discovering. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I know, Ranjit, it's nice that you've spoken about. We should elaborate on the cost aspect so that people get an overall perspective. There should always be a takeaway from a webinar is what I firmly believe. Could you give us a cost estimation if there's a standalone ground plus one structure, concrete, load bearing vis-a-vis wood? How would, in percentage, how would it come to?
Okay, Jimmy, two aspects to look at it. First, I would like to speak about wooden structures, standalone structures, like landscaping has become a very, very good dimension for architects also today. There's a huge amount of open spaces. When we build something like even a pergola or a gazebo out of steel, we still at the end of it need to clad it with some kind of a product, maybe ornamental reasons. That compared to wood, because we've started making all timber, absolute from scratch, all timber sitting structures with spans of as much as 39 feet, no support beams. Yeah, they were about 25% cheaper than actually using iron and steel and then cladding it with somebody, with maybe even, sorry, don't want to mention brands, but 5% or something. The second part, looking at structures when we're talking about attics, we were in fact, again, we've been in talks with Sumessh for some time, that we wanted to design this whole log house, but then it should be the real thing, not the lookalike log houses which are being sold all across the country, where they've got iron and steel and they just come sandwich wood onto it. No, there is another, again, the cost still goes lower.
All those makeshift homes that came from China, the misery failed. Yeah. That's another reason why nobody wants to even experiment or try something like this. Yeah.
Sumessh, unfortunately, the virus that came from China has been super successful.
Okay. Here that collaboration, what Ranjit said, that instead of just designing it individually, this collaboration will make difference.
Of course.
But Jimmy, yes, the cost goes lower. The cost goes way lower.
Excellent.
We achieved 25% lower is in one of our last projects.
So even for standalone houses, it would be about 25% lower than concrete.
Yes.
Amazing. So that's something to look forward to. I'm sure we have time for one or two more questions. Or
I'll just quickly take a question. How can we trust on wood strength? Who will give a guarantee? Water affects a lot on wood strength, though we apply something to prevent absorption of water. While on the other hand, steel construction mostly can be trusted for strength.
That is where you work with a trusted company.
Okay. We've actually done some tests in Australia for the lightweight steel framing, and in the case of a fire, the timber framed house stays intact for a lot longer than a steel framed house, because the fire gets into the ceiling space, or doesn't melt, but it weakens the steel frame, and it tends to buckle a lot quicker than a timber frame buckles, and lets the fire into the ceiling, and you end up getting the steel framed house burns a lot quicker, collapses a lot quicker than the timber framed house.
If we can just take this one, a few more lines about landscaping is what we have a viewer just asking for, please.
So he wants to know about landscaping.
Yes.
No, kidding. But the way Ranjit explained, there's in landscape, there are extreme, the usage of this material is left up to the imagination of the designer and the landscape consultant or the artist who's designing it. but it can be applied from pergolas to pavilions to benches to all kinds of options, including pathways, walkways, cladding on walls. So you can use it to the best of your imagination. The material is extremely versatile, and applications are unlimited. You can make lights out of it. Applications are unlimited.
We've got a very last, I mean, there's a lot more, but we can take this one as a last. In the earlier days, Indian rural homes were built completely out of wood. And now we are again trying to go back. What do you think made designers and architects move away from wood and switch to different alternatives?
I think it's all about sustainable wood. So the whole logic is very different. We cannot categorize wood as wood. Indian homes were made in wood, and that was not wood from sustainable forests, but it was wood that was resulting into massive deforestations across the country. Now what we are talking about is vegetable boards, where we are talking about a different kind of constituent. It's processed wood, and it's definitely responsibly grown and coming in from sustainable forests. So even if you're using processed wood today, it's all sustainable forest wood certified. And that's where I think designers need to be very clear, start understanding categories and variations in wood, rather than just having a generic name, Ghana teak, African teak, Indian teak. I think it's high time our institutions wake up and designers kind of fine tune their level of expertise and knowledge. I think it's all about self-learning and trying to deliver something to your clients, making it value for money, the fees that they are paying you. If you realize the true essence of technicalities and deliver it and do justice to your job. Okay, guys, I think we've had a good session. Kanhai, you want to add something?
Yeah, I'll just add to that, because I think what you said, taking it a step further, I would say like there should be a collaboration between the architect, designers, and say like-minded people like Paul and Ranjit, where you should create a sort of an initiative, because where we all are lacking is the sense of the awareness. So I think if we took an initiative and have sessions with them, we need to educate people. And if we do, then we eventually create a trend where people will go back to what we should be doing, using sustainable wood. So need of the hour is like, okay, we need to create an awareness, at the same time a strong strategy of implementing it, because there's no point just talking and if nothing get implemented at the end of the day. So I think that initiative is very important for all of us to come together and collaborate on this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We all only know what is Burma teak and Burma teak and Burma teak, and that's it. Nobody knows what Ipe is. There's so much that's in the market. Yeah. So
I think for too long we've been a linear economy, and we need to go back to being a circular one. I mean, it's very, very important right now to going back to finishing that circle and seeing where the material starts and where does it really end, and how does it go back into the system.
True. Technical support, I think the collaboration for where we feel that we are incomplete, the technical support with the companies who have the forward.
Right. I think the final takeaway from this webinar is definitely post-lockdown, design firms and architecture firms and consulting firms need to press the reset button, recalibrate the level of knowledge and expertise, and be very, very conscious about the ecological implications on their designs. So it has to play on their conscience about each material and product that they select. What kind of a carbon footprint are they going to arrive with because of their bad selections or good selections? It should play on the emotional aspect of each design house, and they need to take full responsibility for it. Guys, it was a great session.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for being here, and enjoyed speaking to all of you. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mistry. Thank you so much for everything.
A big thank you to all panelists, and thank you, Jimmy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. We would really like to take a special thanks to the respected moderator, to the eminent panelists. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences, and furthermore to our sponsors, Beautex Global and Weathertex. We are sure that the cooperation with you will continue in the times ahead, and we look forward to the same. It's a sincere thanks to everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.